Alright, with this being test week, this is the last lesson for the chapter. Hopefully you're zeroing in on your understanding of solving using algebra and solving by factoring. Solving by completing the square is not as major, although you do need to know it. I would say focus more on the algebra and factoring part for this week. If you get that understood, then go on to completing the square. You should definitely know how to find the value of c that makes it a perfect square though, but other than that, like I said, just go ahead and go from there. From what we've learned, each of the strategies, algebra works when the problem has an x squared but no x. We talked about that. We talked about how whenever there's an x squared but no x, it means you can just move everything away, and remember that you square root everything at the end and you end up with a plus or minus answer somewhere. Factoring works when the problem has an x squared and an x. Sometimes you do the one where it multiplies equal numbers. Sometimes you take out the GCF. Today what we're going to do is experience a strategy of solving that can be used in any situation, which means that algebra only works sometimes, factoring only works sometimes, but what we're going to work on is something that works all the time no matter what. It works with any quadratic, which is why we call it the quadratic formula. It has to be memorized for the test, but luckily we've seen most of the parts that exist. Think about the axis of symmetry, which is negative b over 2a. Think about the problem that I've kept putting on your Math Excel, the b squared minus 4ac. That represents pretty much everything you need to know for the quadratic formula, so please write down the quadratic formula now. It is this right here. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Again, you can see the negative b over 2a here. You can see the b squared minus 4ac here. You just have to get used to the other stuff, which is the plus or minus square root of and putting 2a all the way on the bottom. A mistake that people make is that they put this under a fraction, but they leave that off. Everything here is on top, and this is what ends up on the bottom. Hopefully you'll see that everything should come together for you in the end, but again, that is the general idea of what we're looking at with the quadratic formula. Tomorrow there will be a quick quiz ensuring that you've done your job to memorize this formula, and it's just a real quick, write down the quadratic formula, and that's it. I might even call you up one at a time and have you write down the formula, whatever it is, but you've got to have it memorized soon, so you might as well go ahead and do it for today and get it down. So think about square roots with the following values. Square root of 16. In other words, what number multiplies to be 16? If we do the square root of 16, it gives us the answer of 4, which means that we have the answers of, excuse me for a second, it means we have the answers of positive 4 and negative 4. So you have two answers. You have a 4 times 4, which makes 16. Negative 4 times negative 4 makes 16. Square root of 0, I don't think we need this for, but we'll just do it for the sake of practice, is 0. There is no positive or negative 0. 0 is just a number for itself. If you type in square root of negative 16, you get a non-real answer, which means that there is no solution here. These three things are going to be part of your first lesson of the day. When you take the square root of a positive number, it's going to have two answers. I don't care if it is a decimal. If I do the square root of 99, even though it's 9.94, it's positive 9.94, it's also negative 9.94, even though that's not going to be exact, but you see that's going to get you pretty close to 99. Every positive number that you square root gives you two answers. Anytime your answer is 0, of course, you're not going to have any solutions, and anytime you get a negative number, it breaks the rules, so there is no solution, and that's really what we're looking for. Again, consider the positive value has two solutions, 0 has one solution, negative value has no solutions. This is the first type of problem that is discussed in today's work. So look at the quadratic formula again and notice the part that is under the radical. That is why I had you evaluate b squared minus 4ac. This tells you how many solutions you have, because if I do the b squared minus 4ac and I get a positive number, then I know I'm going to have two answers come out of this radical. If I get a 0, then I know I'm only going to have one answer come out of this, because 0 is only one number. If I get a negative, then I automatically know that there is no solution whatsoever, and that's really where you are going to go with that. So what the question is going to ask you today on your Math Excel, your first few questions are going to say find the number of real solutions. Notice it didn't say solve. It said find the number of real solutions to each equation. So what we have to do first is make sure it's set up in standard form by moving my 7 over. Remember, if it's negative over here, then it's going to be positive over here. That is where we go. A equals 5, B equals 2, C equals 7. We do our b squared minus 4ac, which you should have had done by now. 2 in parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses 5 parentheses 7. Type that in. You get negative 136, which means that in this case there are no solutions. Again, the reason you know it's no solutions is because if I square root 136, if I was to put this value underneath the radical, it's going to put a negative under the radical, which means that you can't possibly get that answer. Therefore, that's how we know it's not going to work. Looking at b, again, moving this over, it's going to be x squared plus 2x and minus 8 equals 0. In this case, a is 1, b is 2, c is negative 8. Plugging that into my b squared minus 4ac, I get 2 squared minus 4, 1, negative 8. I plug all that into my calculator. 2 squared minus 4, 1, negative 8. I get the answer of 36, which means that there are, and because that's positive, we have 2 solutions. Again, if I would have got 0, that meant that I had no solutions. Again, the fact that I got negative 136 here was negative. A square root of a negative doesn't exist. That's why there's no solution. Here I got the answer of 36, which is why, since it's positive, I know that I would have 2 solutions. Again, going back to what I did here, the square root of a positive number gives me 2 solutions. Square root of a negative number gives me no solution. Square root of 0 gives me 1 solution. And that is how you're going to make your choice. So write this down for yourself. Again, to determine the number of solutions, focus on what we call the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac, and here is what your answers tell you. But again, I kind of gave you a common sense way to remember it. If it's, again, positive, the answer exists. There is a plus or minus. If it's 0, then there's only one 0 that exists. There is no positive or negative on 0, so it's 1 solution. And if it's negative, your calculator doesn't like it anyway, and so there's no solution. But getting to what we're here for, this is going to be the intro level of the quadratic formula. Tomorrow you will actually do it all the way through. But for today, what I suggest is that you write the quadratic formula first. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That is my suggestion. Again, a lot of you over the course of this quarter, or actually over the course of the year, haven't always followed it. But hey, I mean, it's on you if it messes up for you. But my first suggestion is that you write the function out, or the formula out. Secondly, use parentheses. So negative parentheses, because that's a negative. Here's my b, negative 2 plus or minus square root of, here's another b, so negative 2 in parentheses squared minus 4 parentheses 1 parentheses negative 8. My main suggestion when you substitute is that you use parentheses on every letter. Then you break this down into 3 pieces. The first thing you do is look at this part. Again, you don't need to box that. Of course, shouldn't even really be writing it, but just follow. This turns into a positive 2. That's my first zone. My second zone is b squared minus 4ac, which we've typed in plenty of times. Here we go, parentheses negative 2 squared minus 4, 1, negative 8, which gives me the answer of 36. That's my second zone. My third zone is 2 times 1 on the bottom, which is 2. This now needs to be split because there is no plus or minus button. So there are 2 things that I'm working out. I'm working out 2 plus square root of 36 over 2, and I'm working out 2 minus square root of 36 over 2. That's where you split it. So again, write the formula, substitute using parentheses, simplify the 3 zones, first, second, third, then you split it based off of the plus or minus like we've always done. And at this point, because of what we practiced, you should be able to do 2 plus square root of 36 like I taught you, hit enter, and then divide by 2, which gives me the answer of 4. Then we should be able to go 2 minus square root of 36, enter, equals, and then again divide that by 2 to get the answer of negative 2. Now, like I said, that's the main thing you have to be able to do. Just make sure you understand how to do this part. Now, you could do 2 plus 6 over 2, which is 8 over 2, and you will do that at some point, which gives you your answer. But to be safe for the sake of the test and for the sake of your interim measure, the way that I've taught you to do it, as long as you've been getting that question right, you should be okay getting from here to here just fine. Alright? If you do get a decimal, just round to 2 decimal places. Just be careful to round appropriately along that time. Alright? Number 3. Again, write the formula first. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Substitute with parentheses. Negative parentheses 0 plus or minus square root of 0 squared minus 4, 3, 9 all over 2 times 3. Simplify your three zones. That's 0 plus or minus square root of, well, again, type in exactly what's in there. 0 squared minus 4, 3, 9. Get the answer of negative 108 all over 6. Well, here's the thing. Once I got the answer of negative 108, and I know that that's under a square root, that means that there's no solution to this. Because when I go to do the square root of 108, negative 108 I mean, your calculator says that you cannot do it. So that's what it means. Again, the fact that you got a negative means that that is impossible to do. So we can stop right there. But again, the general idea is the quadratic formula is very simple overall. It's just that you have to make sure that you are taking your time on it. Again, formula first. Substitute using parentheses, negative 5 plus or minus square root of parentheses negative 5 squared minus 4, 1, negative 4 all over 2 times 1. That's simple. Again, write the formula first, substitute with parentheses second, simplify the three zones. That's a positive 5. Let's see what's under here. So we get negative 5 squared. Make sure you put it in parentheses, minus 4 times 1 times negative 4, which gives me 41 all over 2. Again, this does not exist in the calculator, so I have to split it. 5 plus root 41 over 2 and 5 minus root 41 over 2, which from there I just go ahead and do the work that I've been doing since the first day when I put them on your Math Excel. 5 plus square root 41 equals divided by 2 equals, gives me the answer of 5.70. 5 minus root 41 equals divided by 2 equals negative 0.70. And these would represent the two answers we are looking for. Alright. So, lesson credit, just to make sure I can see it before you get too far. In order to receive credit for doing this lesson, please answer this question. Be sure to show all of your work. Otherwise, 0 credit will be given. Evaluate the quadratic formula for the values a equals 2, b equals 7, and c equals negative 3. Be sure to show me all my steps. Again, if you are doing shortcuts because you think that you're just too good to do that, that's what's hurting you on most of your quizzes. Please start showing the work because, again, this is the 4th quarter. I'm preparing you for your next class. And as you become sophomores / juniors for some of you, the teachers are not going to let you just show your answer and assume that you're smart. You have to actually show the work. You have to prove where your numbers came from. Otherwise, they're going to mark you wrong. So please make sure you show work on this. Otherwise, I will more than likely give you individually, if you have an issue showing work, about 5 questions to do for homework and bring back tomorrow if you cannot humble yourselves enough to just show me the work that I need to see and do it the right way. Other than that, after you're done, Math Excel is up, and we should be able to go from there. Good luck.